Hello, welcome to this video for the Juvenile Justice course. This is Dr. Bryson, and in this particular video, we are going to talk about juvenile justice system and the courts. So we're basically going to be just talking about a few things related to the chapter on youth in the courts in our textbook by Guibault and Boyes Watson. Okay, so please understand that part of it if you're watching this video. On page 209, figure 10.1 is one of the charts of the juvenile process. Now, page 183 in the previous chapter gives a little more thorough chart. It's different than this one, but I think that's an important chart to familiarize yourself with as well. So, but I want to draw your attention to this chart so that you can notice that there are differences here. So, for instance, we don't refer to juveniles as being incarcerated. We refer to them as being in detention. So we send them to juvenile detention. We don't say that they are having a bond hearing or a bail hearing. They are having a detention hearing. We are not sending them to trial. We are adjudicating them. If the charges are found to be true, then what do we do with them? And so we have a disposition that the youth is delinquent. So it's, the wording of these things are very different than the wording for the adult system. But the words refer to the same thing. So you need to be aware of that. There's a wonderful chart in the book that you're going to be doing a book report for. It's due in about 3 or 4 weeks, the cycle of juvenile justice. There's a chart that actually shows the differences in terminology, at least some of them. But the juvenile court evolution, okay, so this particular book skips over a lot of the history that I just don't like, but it's important to understand that the parents' patriae doctrine originated from and is administered by the court system. It really comes from the court system. So just please keep that in mind. So in the key court personnel, notice that when it talks about the actors in the system in the introduction to juvenile justice, when we talk about the court system, we talk about the key players or the actors in the system. We tend to refer to the judge, the prosecutor, and the defense attorney. Well, in juvenile court, many courts call them referees rather than juvenile court judges. Okay, so the prosecutor and the defense attorneys are still called what they're called. I'm going to share a story with you that I think is important for you to know. I was actually the director of a family and youth program in a large city in the Southeast. This has been, my land's about around 25 to 27 years ago. So it's been a while before most of you were born. But I had this one youth, and part of my job as the director of this program was to go to the juvenile detention facility and offer therapy services to youth who were there for holding. In other words, they were pre-adjudication. In the adult system, we call it pre-trial. But for some reason, the courts decided that they needed to be kept in the detention center rather than released to their homes. So this young man was present when his best friend was killed. He had absolutely nothing to do with the murder. It was actually a gang-related murder. He and his friend were not in the gang, but this particular gang believed that the friend had wronged them. He knew the gang members and he knew the direct identities of the folks that killed his friend. So I'm in a meeting with the prosecutor and some other folks at the juvenile detention center, and I say to her, he's innocent of this. He didn't do this. And her exact words to me were, "Oh, I know that, but I've got enough evidence that I can still convict him for murder. And if he doesn't give me the identities of the people who did it, I'm just going to proceed with the case." Now, I will tell you this. I went to the judge and I told on this attorney, because an attorney's role is not to convict innocent people just because you think you can. By the way, many criminal justice professors will say it's not what really happened, it's what you can prove in court. Here's the way I put it. It's not what you can prove in court, it's what you should prove in court. Okay? I want you to notice the difference between those two things. If you've got someone you know is innocent, but you still think you can prove that they're guilty in court, you should not be able to prove that they're guilty in court. That's all I'm saying. But so this particular prosecutor was trying to get this young man transferred to adult court. The judge denied that, and the friend who had been murdered, the parents didn't like that they were going after their dead son's best friend, who was not able to be at the funeral, by the way. So the parents of the victim were upset. The prosecutor believed that because this young man was a juvenile, that she could play certain games that she would not be able to get away with in the adult system. So understand the concept of parens patriae. I know I've talked about it in earlier lectures. And by now you probably know that I have a very dim view of the idea of parens patriae. There are still a lot of progressive, very progressive folks who want to go back to parens patriae, even though we know now all of the violations of the civil rights of these youth. They still want to go back to parens patriae. Another thing you probably know about me by now is that I try to err on the side of the rights of the individual. So make sure you do read the chapter, Youth and the Courts, in the Guibo and Boyes Watson chapter book. Very important to know that. Your learning summaries, as always, should incorporate your readings, not just the lectures. Let me say this before I finish this video. Just want to say I'm very proud of this class. I'm very, very happy with the learning summaries and with the critical thinking discussion posts. This is my first time doing the learning summary thing, and it may be that I just finally kicked myself in the seat of the pants and said, hey, let's figure out a way of really bringing the material home, and hopefully those learning summaries are giving you an opportunity to really share what you're learning. So I just want to say I'm proud of this class, and I hope that some of you have had your appetite whet for juvenile justice after taking this class. One more unit after this one, and then we have Unit 8, which is going to be review, and you'll have your final exam, which will be an essay. And then the semester will be over. It's hard to believe we're coming down to that time. We'll see you next video.